Welcome to Plugged In. I'm Greta Van Susteren. And today I talked to former Pakistan President General Pervez Musharraf and U.S. Ambassador during his time in office, Ambassador Ryan Crocker, about the very complicated relationship between the United States and Pakistan. Now, we're live on Facebook at Voice America, and we want your comments and questions. Strained? Well, that's an understatement when describing the relationship between the United States and Pakistan. Earlier this month, both countries firing back at each other by restricting travel by diplomats stationed in each other's country. And then back on January 1st, President Donald Trump tweeted, "The United States has foolishly given Pakistan more than $33 billion in aid over the last 15 years. And they have given us nothing but lies and deceit, thinking of our leaders as fools. They give safe haven to the terrorists we hunt in Afghanistan with little help. No more." Well, then, a few days later after that tweet, the Trump administration did suspend nearly $2 billion in military and counterterrorism aid, accusing Pakistan of not doing enough to crack down on extremism. I recently spoke to Pakistan's former president, General Pervez Musharraf, about Pakistan's relationship with the United States and the recent news that President Trump is pulling the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal.
Well, I believe in non-proliferation. So previously, when President Obama reached a deal with Iran, there was a lot of instability in the region, especially in the Gulf and Saudi Arabia. On the side US is taking, I think they feel much more comfortable now. So we have to balance out our relations. US has to balance out relations between the Gulf and Iran, because there are a lot of sectarian issues involved here.
Well, recently, Pakistan has put a limitation on the movement of U.S. diplomats in Pakistan. That was in response to the United States doing the same to Pakistani diplomats here in the United States. Has the relationship between the United States and Pakistan, is it deteriorating?
Yes, indeed. I mean, it saddens me especially that the relations between Pakistan and United States are maybe at their lowest ebb. I think there is an absolute requirement of sitting together and resolving whatever cribs each other has against each other, and that relates really to Afghanistan and what is happening in Afghanistan. Now, there is a lot of accusations against Pakistan of double dealing, which one has to understand that is not the case. Pakistan has certain grievances, and so does the United States have grievances against Pakistan. If we settle down, sit and try to resolve them, that much our relationship will improve, and that is the requirement of the day.
Why do you think it deteriorated, the U.S. and Pakistan relationship? What was the beginning of it?
Why? United States, the main criterion, I think it's what is happening in Afghanistan. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, the U.S. complete and total tilt towards India and favoring India, which was in the Cold War period against the West and it was a part of the East. Now the U.S. has taken a stance with India against Pakistan. We need to see why it affects directly. Pakistan is affected directly, and whatever India's role in Afghanistan, we would like the United States to examine that, whether it is impinging on Pakistan's interest, and therefore one-sided approach towards India always is taken negatively in Pakistan.
Meanwhile, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC agreement, it seems like that China is gaining much more influence in Pakistan. Is that true?
Absolutely. When Pakistan has always been a part of some camp. We were in the Western camp during the Cold War period. We were throughout the most loyal allies of the United States. Now, when United States ditches us, may I use that word, and favors India, which is our enemy and which is trying to undo Pakistan, we have to look at friends. We have to look towards new friends. However, may I say, that should not be at the bilateral relationship and cooperation between Pakistan and United States. That is what I believe. But we do have to look at new friends, and China happens to be a friend of Pakistan.
The United States, over a long period of time, has given money, aid, to the military in Pakistan, as well as there's been humanitarian aid to Pakistan. And I'm curious how the United States is viewed by the citizens of Pakistan.
Yes, indeed. This is a great anomaly here. If you look back to history, while we were in the US camp, while we were the members of SEATO and CENTO, these were defense pacts with United States. After the 1965 war with India, we were put under sanctions because we were not supposed to use the weapons given by United States against India. However, then these sanctions carried on till 79, when we started the Mujahideen, or we started the war against Soviet Union assisting Afghanistan. Till 1990 we were again very good friends. Everything was happening from Pakistan, and people of Pakistan accepted whatever was happening through Pakistan. But then in 1990, once Soviets were defeated, again the Pressler Amendment was put in. And do you know that 40 F-16s of Pakistan, for which we had paid to United States, they were not released to us. In fact, we were being asked to give parking money for those aircraft. And then we lost again, our relationship went down again. Then after 9/11, it went up again. So it has been a roller coaster drive between US and Pakistan. We don't understand why United States ditches us and then comes back to us. We want to be friends after whenever they need us. The people of Pakistan think that way, that whenever United States needs us, we become friends, and when they don't need us, we are ditched. That should not be. It should not be such an acute drop or rise in relationships.
Well, one of the huge controversies in the United States looks at Pakistan, is the fact that A.Q. Khan, who is considered the sort of the father of the nuclear weapon in Pakistan, was trading technology to other nations. It's believed that he traded some nuclear technology to North Korea. That was, one of the reasons why I think the United States had a falling out with Pakistan. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong. There has been proliferation from Pakistan, which is most unfortunate. Should not have been done, but unfortunately it did happen. But now, the situation after I came in 1999, let me tell you, the first thing I did was to bring custodial controls over our nuclear armament. We created a strategic planning division, a secretariat which controlled all the finances, which controlled all the security of all our science organizations. This was not there before, therefore a bad individual could proliferate. And then we raised an Army Strategic Force Command, which is equivalent to a corps of military. And now these assets of ours are under their very good command. This all was created later, and I don't think there is any chance of proliferation now at all.
The reports are that Pakistan is the third largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world, behind the United States and Russia. Do you believe that to be true?
Now, I don't know what you asked really accurately, but I would also like to say that why is there a very biased opinion between India and Pakistan? India is also nuclear. Nobody asked them. And the United States must know, why did Pakistan go nuclear? It was because India exploded its first bomb in 1974, and they challenged Pakistan. We had an existential threat from our east, and that is what forced us to go nuclear. So nobody in the United States asked India to have stopped that. It is only Pakistan. So I think this is a one-sided approach, in spite of the fact that Pakistan has been a most closest ally of United States. always in difficult times.
Did North Korea get its nuclear technology from A.Q. Khan?
Well, there is not enough proof of it, let me say. Whatever transactions went on, it is not that North Korea was totally 100% dependent on Pakistan.
Do you know if North Korea got technology from any other nation for their nuclear weapons system?
Well, we did proliferate with Iran, that is known, but no other. I don't think A.Q. Khan managed to ingress into any other country or had relationship. He may have tried, but he didn't succeed.
Dr. Afridi is a Pakistani who helped the CIA locate Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. He is currently in prison. Do you think Dr. Afridi should be released from prison?
Yes, this is a case which I know. I do understand, which is an irritant to United States. But purely on merit of the case, let me say that how can a person, would you allow a person of United States, a US citizen, dealing with ISI on a very, very sensitive issue of national importance to United States, and they are not, the man is not dealing with US CIA, but with ISI of Pakistan. I mean, that is his guilt, and therefore the man has been punished. But that is one of the irritants. As I said, the US and Pakistan should sit together and see whether we can resolve this irritant and exchange a more accommodating stance from United States towards Pakistan and Afghanistan, because we have a terrorist sitting there, who Fazlullah, and we know that the Afghan intelligence and RAW of India, they know it, and I suppose United States also knows that he is there. We also know that India is totally intruding into Balochistan of Pakistan through Afghanistan, and United States is turning a blind eye to that. That is the grievance of Pakistan against United States. And I know that other than Afridi, it's a Haqqani group which irritates the United States. We need to sit down and resolve these issues.
But just so I'm clear, if you were current president of Pakistan right now, would you release Dr. Afridi?
Well, with a deal, yes, with a deal. Everything has every nation has its own national interest, and it makes policies in accordance with their national interest. Now, one can't violate national interest with a policy that is unpopular in Pakistan. But however, if there is a deal, if it's a give and take, yes, indeed, it can be resolved. I don't think it is such a serious thing which cannot be resolved.
General Musharraf led Pakistan for nearly 9 years, and for 2.5 of those years, Ryan Crocker was the U.S. Ambassador to Pakistan. I spoke to him recently about General Musharraf's comments, and he explained to me why India plays such an important role in Pakistan's relationship with other countries and the United States.
This dynamic is as old as the two countries themselves are. It goes all the way back to partition and independence after World War II. Pakistan has existential issues, quite literally, with India. They fear that the day will come when the Indians, with their vastly superior numbers, will literally try to overrun them. So almost anything that happens in Pakistan is filtered through that prism of India. The Indians do something similar as a much larger country, not with the same degree of urgency and angst, but everything we do, the Pakistanis will look at it vis-a-vis India, and that certainly applies to the nuclear issue, and even more to Afghanistan, as came out in your interview with General Musharraf.
Well, they've been saber-rattling for years. Both countries have nuclear weapons. Should we be alarmed, or should we just think this is sort of business as usual? Pakistan and India will always have a sort of a scuffle across the border and always be saying, threatening things to each other.
It's a little of both, but clearly two major countries on terms of outright antagonism, and both with nuclear weapons, it's not the kind of thing you want to look away from. So I think we have to be actively engaged with both, doing what we can to lower temperatures and prevent occasional clashes from turning into something worse.
Well, it appears that in Pakistan, like other parts of the world, most notably Africa, is that as the United States sort of distanced itself diplomatically with Pakistan, China is increasingly putting an influence in Pakistan. Number one, do you agree with me that China is moving into Pakistan more? And number two is, should that be the least bit alarming to the United States?
Those are two great questions, Greta. When I was in Pakistan as ambassador, that was 2004 to 2007, my problem with China wasn't that they were doing too much, it was that they weren't doing enough. To use the weight of that strategic relationship to press Pakistan on their harboring of terrorists, for example. China has got some problems in its west, and some of those groups that are active there shelter and train inside Pakistan. So the relationship between the U.S. and China is large and complex. In some areas, we're going to be competitors, even adversaries. In other areas, I think we can cooperate. And I would think Central Asia, especially with Pakistan, would be one of those areas. So it's not that they're going to push us out of Pakistan. It's that I wish they would be more meaningfully engaged in Pakistan and influencing the leadership there in a positive direction.
Is there a way to describe the U.S. strategy, the Trump administration strategy in Afghanistan right now?
There is. As you recall, last summer, President Trump addressed the Afghanistan-Pakistan question. On Afghanistan, I thought he was quite good. He effectively said that we have vital interests in Afghanistan, that we are going to be engaged there to support those interests, that we will be driven by conditions and not by calendars. I thought that was very important, given the way that we've looked at the calendar first, saying we'll be done by date certain, rather than the conditions that brought us there in the first place. So I think he got that right, and I think it was fairly significant. I would also note for the record that in so doing, he was really building on the handover that President Obama made to him. You'll recall that toward the end of President Obama's term, he froze further troop withdrawals. And that allowed President Trump to say, we're going to be staying until the conditions suit. On Pakistan, sadly, I don't think he got it right. Quite confrontational, talking about Pakistan, talking about a hostile relationship, that pressure was going to have to be brought to bear. That does not reflect a realistic agenda.
Well, when you do the pressure, though, I assume that means mostly money. Is that if we lift more of our money from Pakistan, then that's when China's invited in deeper?
It is, and as I said, I would like that to be the case. I would like to see China do more. When I was in Pakistan, for example, I made a special point of visiting Gwadar, where China is involved in building a modern port facility and an infrastructure, rail and road, to support it. We were solidly behind that. And I went down to Gwadar to put on record that this is not a point of competition between us, it's a point of cooperation. So if the Chinese are motivated to do more along these lines, that's great. But the problem that we face in Pakistan, that really China and the U.S. face, is the insurgency in Afghanistan that Pakistan helps sustain by harboring the Taliban leadership.
So how important is Pakistan to success for the United States in Afghanistan and Iran? Joining us, Marvin Weinbaum, Director for Pakistan Studies at the Middle East Institute. Dr. Weinbaum served as an analyst for Pakistan and Afghanistan at the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research. He's also authored or edited 6 books. Krishnadev Calamur is a senior editor for The Atlantic, where he oversees news coverage. He's also worked for National Public Radio as a reporter and an editor, and he has written a murder mystery titled Murder in Mumbai. Welcome to Voice of America, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let me go first to you, Marvin. Marvin, we're sort of operating under in this Pakistan-U.S. relationship under sort of a cloud of even the Texas high school slaughtered last week. There was a Pakistani exchange student who was killed. And then we've got the added problem that a U.S. diplomat was involved in a fatal traffic accident in Pakistan recently, and Pakistan doesn't want him to leave. Pakistan wants to answer them. So we come to that, and then we have President Musharraf saying that our relationship is at the lowest. Why?
Well, it is at the lowest, and it's, you know, right now it took an interesting turn. I think when the new administration came in at the beginning, there was a great deal of hope in Pakistan that they would reset relations with the United States. They didn't particularly like the Obama administration, and they saw this as a great opportunity to get a new hearing for Pakistan, always to level the ground with India, always with that in mind. But what they have discovered, and as was pointed out here, particularly in the president's first tweet of the year, where he insulted them, this was taken in a very hard fashion there, and ever since, really, it's never gotten back on. And I might mention that coming up to the present moment, we've seen a particularly unfortunate development, and that is both sides have now restricted the diplomats of the others' embassies. And that's something you do with your enemies. It's not something you do with your partners. You know,
Krishnadev, President Musharraf talked about the United States claiming basically that they're fair weather friends, that the United States is constantly ditching Pakistan. On the other hand, I was actually traveling with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, in which she was announcing a $5 or $7 billion aid package to Pakistan, but that the United States wanted to know what they were going to do with the money, and Pakistan was deeply insulted. They said there were strings attached. Now, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you've written saying that you think this more muscular approach by President Trump towards Pakistan is a good thing.
I think it is a good thing because the U.S. has spent billions of dollars on especially military assistance to Pakistan, and you know, as the president has tweeted, the perception is that there's very little that's been received in exchange for it. You know, Afghanistan, which is the centerpiece of one of the centerpieces of the Trump administration's foreign policy, is still pretty unstable. Pakistan is still seen as doing insufficient amount to curb militant activity there. Well, I
think it's even a little bit further, and I think what Nikki Haley, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and the President have either said or intimated is that they're actually hiring terrorists in Pakistan who are killing U.S. soldiers, troops in Afghanistan.
That's right, and I think it's perfectly fine to ask where is our money going? I think it's a perfectly fine question to ask, and I mean, you may quibble with the manner in which it's being asked in public on Twitter, but it's a perfectly fine question to ask.
You know, Marvin, this expression, you bite off your nose to spite your face, to the extent that the United States and President Trump is more muscular in his approach towards Pakistan, China moves in. I mean, to the extent that the United States pulls out, China is getting very involved economically.
I wouldn't see it in either or. I think Crocker was right on this. They've got a role to play that we're not. They're putting in $60 billion, at least promised investment. That could have an enormous impact on stabilizing the Pakistani economy, which is not in great shape. That's in our interest, because if they can create a comfortable, stabilized Pakistan, there's a much better likelihood that Pakistan can take the hard decisions that they've got to do against their extremist groups. While they have their back up against the wall, they are really at the mercy, really, of some of these groups. And we've seen that over the last several years, where these militant extremist groups have been gaining ground. And to the extent that Pakistan, again, is destabilized, that's in their interest.
Krishnadev, map this out for me. Where is this going, the harsher policy towards Pakistan? Where are we going to be 2 years from now on this?
I think it's very hard to obviously predict where we're going to be in 2 years. I think there probably will be escalation of some sort till, this has happened multiple times before, right? So you've had cases where the previous administrations, including the Obama administration, have put increasing pressure on Pakistan. There has been a break in relations, and then they've sat down negotiated their differences away, and then we go back to square one. And I think we're at that stage where the U.S. is putting pressure. At some point they'll come and talk, and we'll have to see what happens after that.
You know, I thought it was interesting what President Musharraf had to say about Dr. Al-Afridi, who is the man who helped the CIA find Osama bin Laden, and he basically, his approach, he said we wouldn't want the United States wouldn't want to be told what to do about people who cooperate with foreign people in our country. However, it's a little different situation, is it not, Marvin, in that we were supposedly on the same team going after Osama bin Laden, and they were hiding him.
Yeah,
they knew where he was.
Yeah, that's exactly. We were supposedly doing something which was in mutual interest of both countries. And in fact, their initial response when we had the raid and took out Osama bin Laden was a positive one. But then what happened is internally, their own people turned on them and said, wait a second, you didn't defend the country. They changed their position.
I think most Americans think that they knew exactly where Osama bin Laden was, or at least the intelligence services there.
I think it's very hard to argue that they didn't, given where he was found, which is, I mean, a town which is, you know, is very close to the biggest military area.
It's like close to their West Point, our military academy here.
I mean, it's very hard to argue that they didn't know where it was.
Whether all of the leadership knew is another question.
Right.
Certainly there were elements that did.
Right. Quickly, what happens with Afghanistan and U.S. strategy in Afghanistan? Because this is our supply line to Pakistan into Afghanistan.
I mean, it's a problem. The Pentagon's Inspector General himself released a report this week, and he said that Pakistan has showed no clear signs that it's eliminating safe havens for militants in Afghanistan. With that sort of a situation, you know, U.S. strategy, which is to stabilize Afghanistan, is going to be quite an uphill task.
But we also have to supply our troops, Marvin. I mean, that's the supply route.
That's a very important fact. But we don't have 100,000 troops there. We have only 15,000.
Yeah, you be a family member of the 15,000, and your attention's going to be on that supply route.
Let me say that money is not going to get them to come around. We've already taken that money away from them. All we have in there now is some development money. I think what's been demonstrated here is that you also have to be concerned with countries' sense of respect also.
If I could just add to that, I think the stabilization money, the important part about it is when you cut the supply routes off, the U.S. is flying in supplies into Afghanistan. It costs more, certainly, but it would still be less than what we pay them for overall stabilization funds.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much. That's all the time we have for today. Stay plugged in by liking us on Facebook at Voice America. You can also like my Facebook page at facebook.com/Greta. And of course, follow me on Twitter at Greta. Thank you for being plugged in.